Apologies for the change of scenery and the bad audio quality. My family has taken a camping trip and I've been, not forced, I've chosen to come along. But that means I could not record a video at home in my studio with proper microphone gear. This video is partially going to be about why sand falls, but it's also going to be about why satellites stay in orbit. Let's get started. So, gravity is a concept that we're all familiar with. It makes sand fall, it makes you stay on the ground, it makes it so that you don't go floating off into space. Well, if there were no gravity ever, we would not exist. It's not that we would fly off into space, it's that the Earth and the planets, nothing would have ever formed. Space would be entirely comprised of dust. Planets form because enough dust is in the same spot that it clumps together, makes rocks, those rocks make bigger rocks, the rocks make bigger rocks, and then you get something huge. With a body the size of Earth, you accelerate towards it at about 9.8 meters per second. Quick side note, I am saying it correctly. You have to say per second twice because you're accelerating. If I just said 9.8 meters per second, that signifies a constant velocity. You actually accelerate 9.8 meters per second every second. The reason that feathers fall slower than lead weights is just because of air resistance. If there were no air resistance, everything would accelerate towards the Earth at 9.8 meters per second. Gravity does change with distance, but the difference is negligible. If you're in free fall, you are accelerating towards the Earth at 9.8 meters per second. But how come you're weightless? When you're in free fall, you are weightless, because that's basically what is happening with things in orbit as well. However, it's not the same type of acceleration that you would feel if you were accelerating in a car. When you're in free fall, the Earth is accelerating you downward at 9.8 meters per second, but it's also pushing back with the same force called the normal force. These forces equalize, and you've got yourself a free fall and a zero gravity simulator. This is why specialized airplanes can fly in parabolic arcs, and it makes it feel like outer space. Now let's discuss orbits. Mark Rober, in one of his videos, he says, that thing is suborbital. Well, when you jump, you're suborbital. Everything, when it's thrown, is suborbital. Suborbital just means it's falling towards Earth, and it's going to intersect with the ground. If we imagine the Earth as a single point, we would be in orbit around that single point if we were to, say, jump. But how do orbits work? Orbits basically work like this. On a sphere, you have a horizon that is a certain distance away from me. Right now, mine is actually the ocean. But how do orbits work? Well, Newton figured that out a long time ago. Basically, if you throw a rock, it's going to crash into the ground. If you throw it further, it's going to start going farther and crash into the ground. Since the Earth is a sphere, it's going to go a little bit further towards the horizon, and then it's going to crash into the ground. However, if you were to throw the rock hard enough, it would go over the horizon faster than the Earth curves away from it. Basically, the Earth is curving away from it at the same rate that it's falling. You're still falling at 9.8 meters per second. But since you're here, you throw it, you dip over the horizon, and it keeps continuing. You're going fast enough, and so before you can hit the ground, the horizon drops out from under you. This is how the moon, the ISS, and dozens, if not hundreds, of communication and networking and all sorts of satellites can stay in orbit. It's just because the ground falls away faster than they can go towards the ground. Imagine it like this. You have a hill, and you're going to jump off the top of it with a running start. Since you're going forward, you're actually going to jump a lot farther than you would if you were on flat ground, because the hill makes it so that the ground falls away from you faster than you can come close to it. You'll still eventually intersect with the ground, but you definitely jump a lot farther. Gravity also extends infinitely outward. The sun is exerting gravity on every star in the universe. Just with more distance, it becomes more and more negligible. And so once you get far enough away, it doesn't really matter. On one of the Apollo missions, a flight engineer once said that the capsule will now be leaving Earth's gravity. That's not technically true. The only thing that it's doing is passing the point where the moon's gravity is stronger than the Earth's gravity. If the Earth is my fist and the moon is my finger, once we get about here, then the moon's gravity will be stronger. We don't need any more propellant, and because the moon is our destination. We still have to get back, but that's not as difficult because the moon's gravity is a lot less than the Earth's. Alright, I hope that video cleared up some misunderstandings about why people say 9.8 meters per second. It seems like it shouldn't be like that, but it should. If you want more content, you can subscribe up here. There will be more videos here and here. I'm not exactly sure of my framing, so I don't exactly know where to put my hands, but they'll be somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching.